In this video, we are going to talk about the collapse of FTX and the impact that it has on YouTube influencers. This is Drew Page. Welcome to the Drew Page channel. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Certainly appreciate all of you who have done so, and I hope that you've found this content informative. And this is going to be something that is going to have a long-lasting impact, this video about YouTube influencers, for some time to come, I think. So let's jump right in and talk about it. So FTX.com, which is the parent company of FTX US, was supposed to be taken over by Binance, which is another crypto company. And the reason they were going to do the takeover was because FTX.com is, quote, suffering a liquidity crunch. And this liquidity crunch isn't just a crunch. It sounds like a crisis to me when we look at what Sam Bankman-Fried is saying about the company, where he says, "This is on me, I effed up," and not just effed up once, but twice. He is acknowledging that the lack of liquidity and all of the money that they've been spending is a big problem. Now, there's two different things. There's FTX.com and then there's FTX US. And there are some that are trying to make sure that you understand that there's a separation of the two. And that's sort of true. But a parent company, and this is what's important, a parent company, in order to be a parent company, must own more than 50% of the subsidiary. So that means, yeah, technically, FTX US is a separate entity from its parent company, FTX.com. But FTX.com owns at least more than 50% of the shares of FTX US. So if FTX.com goes down, you are fooling yourself if you think it's not going to have a significant impact on FTX US. So if you're housing your Bitcoin or your other cryptocurrencies in the FTX US exchange on the theory that, well, that's a separate entity, everything's still the same, everything's good to go, what's going on with FTX.com is a separate thing, you're probably fooling yourself. You may want to reconsider. So what impact does this have on YouTube influencers? Well, we have the Millennial Money crew, which was Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Andre Zick, and Jeremy of Financial Education. And those guys were basically using FTX as a sponsor in the overwhelming majority of their Millennial Money videos. And in fact, they use them also on their individual channels as well as sponsors, and were basically using them to say that this is a good company, you should use them as an exchange. They were using them as an exchange. I think they were saying that. I don't really recall that, to be honest with you, but they were certainly saying that this was a company that they were using as sponsors. They were getting advertising dollars from. And under the SEC regulations, one may make an argument that they were touting the stock, kind of like what Kim Kardashian was accused of doing. But they did disclose it, unlike Kim Kardashian. They had the thing up there that said paid promotion and all that. So I don't think that they are going to run into the same problem that Kim Kardashian did. But they were using them as sponsors. And one of them has now come out with an apology video. Graham Stephan issued a 2-minute and 20-second long video, basically apologizing for using them as a sponsor and not doing the investigation that he should. So let's react to this video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what we need to do going from here.
So I've been waiting to talk about this since the situation seems to be changing every few minutes, but as some of you may have seen, FTX US has been a sponsor here on the channel for the majority of the year. Their international counterpart, however, FTX.com, has recently faced liquidity issues, disabled withdrawals, and because of that, I'm worried about the potential impact to FTX US. I think it's pretty safe to say, as a result of that, I'm no longer working with them.
Graham acknowledges that they were a sponsor for the majority of the videos on his channel. He doesn't mention anything about the Millennial Money channel, which I think they should probably go back to the Millennial Money channel and clean that up as well. But he acknowledges that there is a connection there. and that you can already see that he's separating the FTX.com from the FTX US, and he's going to talk about that a little bit more. But regardless, he is severing the relationship with FTX US regardless, and I think that's a smart move, especially in light of what's likely to happen. So I think that's a great move.
Fortunately, as of right now, FTX US maintains that they're a separate entity from FTX.com. They're fully backed one-to-one, and they're operating normally. In fact, you're still able to buy, sell, and withdraw as usual. Although with everything going on, I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last.
Here he makes the distinction really clear that FTX.com and FTX US are two separate entities, and that one has their exchanges are in order, $1 for $1, you can still withdraw your money and all of that, which, by the way, may be a potentially smart thing for one to do, depending, of course, on your individual circumstances. This is not financial advice. This is just a warning that there are two different entities here. There is no dispute about that. But the fact that there is a parent company that has to own a majority share of the other company, it is going to have an impact. And they may fix this problem, they may clean it up, and everything be fine. But if you're holding out hope on the fact, well, these are two separate entities, there's no relation there, you're wrong. There is clearly a relationship here. So I wouldn't hide behind that argument that, well, it's two separate entities, so I'm going to be okay to leave everything in FTX US. Definitely seek some financial advice if you don't know what you're doing on your own before you decide to just leave everything in there, because you see what's happening with FTX.com folks who are not able to withdraw funds. So there's that.
So if you hold anything on FTX US, you could still take it out and transfer it to an external wallet or wherever else you please without any issue. Now, I really hope that I'm preemptively jumping the gun, that FTX US is fully backed as they say, that there's not going to be any issue and everything will continue operating normally. I would love to be proven wrong, be overly cautious, and say all of this for nothing. But I'd rather be overly cautious and remind people to move their money off of the exchange, especially during a time where everything is still functioning.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? If you're able to move it off of an exchange into an individual wallet or some other carrier at this point, he's saying that it's probably just jumping the gun. Everything's probably going to be okay, but just in case, out of abundance of caution, I want to bring this to your attention. Well, out of abundance of caution, it should be brought to your attention that the fact that this parent company has this relationship with FTX US certainly indicates that if there is action that you would like to take to protect yourself, you want to do that before there's a liquidity crisis in FTX US. And when is that going to happen? How do we know if it's going to happen? Well, if the other company is going bankrupt and they own the majority share of FTX, when do you think it's going to happen? And are you going to be willing to wait for that? Are you going to hold on to hope that there's going to be that? I don't know. I mean, this is just my opinion. I wouldn't, but again, it's not your financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do. I wouldn't be keeping something on there when there's a majority owner that's going down of the subsidiary. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think that what Graham is doing here to hedge his bets is actually a wise move, telling people that you should be moving things while you're in a position to do that.
Of course, this just comes as a huge shock because I've always been completely transparent about everything I do here on the channel and everything involving personal finance, so I feel like I owe it to you to explain the situation and what's going on. As much as I trusted the information that I was given, I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
I actually respect him for doing this. He's the only one that I'm aware of that actually has come out with an apology video, at least as of the recording of this video. Now, someone else may have done that since, and that's great, but he's the only one to this point who has actually apologized to their viewers for having FTX as a sponsor. I think Meet Kevin has acknowledged that he has, but I don't think he apologized to his viewers for having them as a sponsor. I mean, I don't know that he should have to. I don't even know that Graham should have to. If every single company or every TV program or every YouTube channel that had a sponsor ever had to apologize for every time there was a company that went down or there was a company that did something that was perceptively wrong, I mean, there would be just apologies everywhere. But I do respect him for taking the time to do that, for caring about his listeners, and acknowledging that he was essentially duped by the research. If he did a lot of research, I don't know how much research he did, but regardless, he says that he was wrong and that he's sorry. So not just he's sorry that things have perceived, he is actually saying he was wrong. So you got to give the guy respect for that.
I trusted them, but in the end, their parent company was not forthcoming with all of the risks, this being one of them. This type of behavior is not something that I ever would have expected. But if FTX US is at risk, I don't want anyone to get screwed.
Knock, knock. They are at risk. And you're good to say that you don't want them to get screwed, but you need to be more clear and make sure that you understand the difference between a parent company and a subsidiary. And you should probably explain that to your viewers. When you're throwing out these terms of parent company, there's probably a lot of people on the Graham Stephan show that don't know what a parent company is. Now, if you've watched this video, you understand that a parent company is the majority holder of a subsidiary, which is another separate entity. Yes, it is. But again, they are connected. I mean, if you own 51% of a company and then that whole side goes down, that means 49% hold the rest of it. And if you think that there's not going to be an impact, you're fooling yourself. So yeah, definitely don't want to see anybody get screwed. So make sure that you understand that there is a connection, and it's a significant connection.
Like I said, thankfully, all funds at FTX US are not impacted, and I pray it stays that way. I know just as much as you do at this point, so after watching everything transpire outside of the US with FTX.com, I wanted to give you my full thoughts so that you're up to date. And again, I do my best to research and vet everything that comes my way, and this one I did not see coming. I've also personally used them as an exchange because of how trusted they were in the industry. I saw that they were backed by really big investors like BlackRock, Tiger Global, and Sequoia Capital, so I didn't think this was ever a possibility of ever happening, but here we are. Everybody who watches the channel means the world to me, and I would not be here without you. So thank you so much for hearing this out, and I really hope this is all for nothing.
Graham explains that one of the reasons why he believed that this would never happen is because there are big investment firms that were backing FTX. And so for that reason, this was just a big shock to him. And, you know, he says that he is used to doing the research, but that he just felt like he didn't do enough in this case, which he probably didn't. You know, when you're getting sponsorship dollars, it's hard to say no. I mean, I haven't taken any sponsorships. I don't know where these people are coming from. I get all these random emails about sponsorships, and I think most of them are bogus anyway. You know, if it's not something that is rock solid, I'm not going to take it for this very reason. I mean, I think this is a huge credibility problem for a lot of YouTube influencers, because you're supposed to be touting yourselves as experts on finance. You're educating the public about things like credit cards, things like stocks, things like indexes, real estate, and all these other things. And you say, well, you give this information and nobody's supposed to rely on it. Okay, if you want to live in naive land, then that's perfectly fine. But if people weren't listening to you and acting on the things that you said, then there would be no need for your channel. Just turn the channel off. I mean, what's the point? You're giving information on things that are supposed to help people. If they're not supposed to act on it, then why are you giving it? Just don't give it. There's nothing to listen to. Now, this ought to also be a warning to those who listen to YouTube channels that if you make your decisions solely based on what a YouTuber says, then you got a problem too. And these types of things can destroy your wealth. They can destroy credibility, and you know, you can sue all you want, but the chances are that you're likely not going to recover against these types of folks because they have all the disclaimers in their descriptions, as I have in mine. You know, so that way, you know, we have put the language in there that's going to protect us in the event that, you know, things fall apart. Now, I don't give specific investment advice to people, never have. I give information and knowledge, and I tell people that up front, which is, of course, why I, at this point, don't have 4 million subscribers. I'd love to have that, but I don't have that because I'm not willing to sell out to do that. I'm not going to do the sponsorships. I'm not going to that I don't know are fully backed, that are like real companies, not these fly-by-night things that are just coming. I just don't think that that's very wise. And, you know, I don't know enough about investing myself. I'm still learning myself. And I watch these guys because they give good information. But I don't make decisions based solely on what they have to say. But at the same time, they have to know that there are people that do. And yes, it is their own fault if they listen to YouTubers to get all of their information. They act solely on what a YouTuber says. Yes, that is true. But that doesn't give them an excuse to just take any fly-by-night sponsorships. You know, like for instance, the Scottish land thing. You know, that's something that both Meet Kevin and Graham Stephan are doing right now, and it just makes no sense. You're not a lord of the land because you have some stupid certificate on your wall. Okay, you do not own any property in Scotland. That is the dumbest thing. If you didn't attend the closing and you didn't, there's no deed recorded. There, you have some little flimsy certificate. That's like, you know, I guess you also believe that you've got a star actually named after you because somebody sent you a picture and you paid a fee saying that this star is now named after you. I mean, come on, man, give me a break. And those are the kind of sponsorships and things. It's just not worth it. I mean, yeah, they pay you money, and yeah, if you're a full-time YouTuber, yeah, I get it. I'm not. I'm a lawyer full-time. I've got other things going on, so yeah, I don't need the YouTube income. But I mean, come on, if you're really trying to sell to these people that you're a lord of the land because you have some stupid certificate, I mean, that's ridiculous. You're not a landlord. You're not a lord of the land. You don't own any land in Scotland. You know, you don't have any. You're not going to get foreclosed on it. You're not going to pay any taxes on it. You don't have a deed. That's ridiculous. So I mean, you know, where do we go from here? What does this do with the credibility of YouTube influencers? Well, I think that YouTube influencers who had this FTX sponsor need to really you know, self-evaluate and decide whether these kinds of sponsorships are really things that they want to do in the future. Because the likelihood that there will be investigations into YouTube influencers, I think, is definitely increasing, especially in light of the election this week where there wasn't a red wave and Gary Gensler is still going to be holding his chair. And you know, he's basically not going to have a contentious House, even if the House flips to Republican. He's still not gonna be, you know, dealing with the high level of investigation and you know, slow play that he would have to do if there was a big red wave. And so, you know, I would expect investigations based on this FTX stuff, even on the YouTube influencers. I think the Kim Kardashian thing it's a big deal. I mean, they set that up so that way they can say this is a security, and now we're going to start coming after these other people that are touting things that are not legitimate. So, you know, I think that YouTube influencers need to be very cautious about, you know, what sponsorships they take and what they're pushing onto the general public. I would steer away from the land in Scotland stuff. I would steer away from fly-by-night companies. And if it's not something that's legit, that you know is a solid company that has stood the test of time, that's looking for legitimate advertisement sponsorship, I would run from the hills. That's just me. All right, well, I hope you found this video helpful. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell, and until next time, stay tuned.